Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our council meeting for May 19th, 2020. Council, you see before you the agenda. I noticed that there is a proclamation here as well now. Thank you very much. I'll have a motion, please, to adopt the agenda, and it is moved by Councillor Stoyles and seconded by Councillor Power. All in favor? And contrary-minded, carried. The next item would be the minutes from May 5th, 2020. Please check first for errors or omissions. And let me know if you see any, or let Ms. Lewis know. Okay, again, hearing none, I'll call for a motion. Moved by Councillor Ledwell, second by Councillor Fry, to adopt the minutes of May 5th, 2020. All in favor? And those opposed? Carried. Thank you. Business arising, please. No business arising. Let me start by asking, we met with Newfoundland Power and looking at item number 89. I think we've gotten a good sense now of what we've seen down on Smallwood Drive, very much like, as they've been saying, what Larkhall Street is like. Council, were you happy with or happy is maybe not the right word, but do you think we had a thorough enough discussion in Committee of the Whole last Tuesday with Newfoundland Power on what they had planned down there? I think this has helped to bridge the gap. Councillor Stoyles.
Yes, Your Worship. The meeting with Light and Power certainly was very good and very informative. My concern from the very beginning, and it's still my concern today, is the residents being notified. And I understand one of the seniors called me down there this afternoon and said that Light and Power called them yesterday morning before 9 o'clock, and they weren't impressed with the early morning call. But they still have concerns down there, and I would like to see a public Zoom meeting or something, because the residents, even though Light and Power have been calling them individually, I don't know if it's the right message. I always thought, and maybe I'm missing something, I always thought that when things like this happen, when there was a major change in a neighborhood, that a public hearing would be held. And maybe I'm misreading this, I don't know, but the residents still have a lot of concerns down in the neighborhood. And when Light and Power, no doubt, Light and Power is good corporate business, and we have dealt with them for many years, and I have no problem with Light and Power, but I think the process, for some reason, is not right. I think the residents deserved a right to be heard. And even though they're talking back and forth to each other, they're not talking back and forth to each other like they normally would if we didn't have COVID. And even though my understanding is a couple of them have talked to each other back and forth over the fence or on the phone, I still think that they're missing the picture. That's my remark. That's it for me.
Councillor Fry.
From what I've been hearing from the residents, I don't think they're opposed to the upgrades of Light and Power or Newfoundland Power. I think they would prefer to have it in the back, because I know originally we had talked about moving it from the back to the front, but from what we learned from our meeting, it's going to be kind of a combination of both. So I'm just wondering if there is any way we could come to some kind of a compromise and explore the possibility of keeping it out back, because I know that's what I'm hearing from the residents anyway.
Councillor Antle.
Your Worship, is there outside of having a neighborhood meeting, I mean, has Newfoundland Power contacted each of the residents? And if so, is there any consensus there? What do the people down there want? Do they want it in the front, or do they want it in the back? You know, we've all been in contact with some of the residents down there. Some like it and some don't. So I'd like to know, what's the consensus? You know,
I think to answer your question, Councillor, I think representatives of Newfoundland Power provided an interim report, which we're going to talk about in Committee of the Whole, and I think that's going to inform us in terms of the next steps, whether it's in terms of how much further engagement that we do. I think they've talked to a lot of the residents, which are also their customers. down on Smallwood Drive. But, you know, in terms of the process, staff followed the path that we've always done. This has never gone through the planning department. Typically, this has always been referred to the engineering department, and basically our engineering staff will work with Newfoundland Power to get this to not to the point where a development permit is issued, which is not required unless this was new development, to the point where a letter of permission, I guess, for lack of a better choice of words, would be issued by through our Public Works department. And I do believe Director Antle's been on the record as saying, you know, Newfoundland Power was supposed to consult with the residents earlier on, perhaps as early as March. And I also understand that, you know, the whole process, he always kept us informed that council had to make the decision. So I don't know if the committee, if it went through committee or not, but generally they've been following the path. Having said all that, I do think we fell behind in terms of the pace. Newfoundland Power seems to be a little bit ahead of us in terms of the consultation process and the work and the design that they've done. But I'm glad now that we're sitting tight and we're talking to them, and you know, based on what we will see tonight in a preliminary report, a status report from Newfoundland Power, we can then figure out, you know, are we going to do further levels of engagement in addition to what they're doing? That will be the choice of council. I think Newfoundland Power has great respect for the fact that, you know, the city council will make the final decision. Anybody else?
Your worship,
Deputy Mayor.
thank you. I think you summarized in our conversation with Newfoundland Power, and my takeaway was, because as you said, this never has gone through our planning department. We didn't need you know, under our planning or our regulations, development regulations, there's no formal permit required for this. And I think back to when they upgraded, for example, Park Avenue or the poles along Commonwealth Avenue. The practice has always been that Newfoundland Power would contact our engineers, our staff with Infrastructure Public Works, and they would ask if technically this could be done, if there was no underground services, and that is sort of the permit. So I think this notion of permit got sort of misconstrued or misunderstood. And it's been common practice where it would go to our engineering staff. They would do the technical assessment, and if there was no issues, you know, Newfoundland Power would proceed. So whether Newfoundland Power was ahead of the game, I think they were anxious to get this started. And given the past practice where it's always been an engineering report, that's what they were marking on the line on the lawns down there. Our staff were down there trying to identify underground facilities or infrastructure. So that's what our residents would have seen. And then Newfoundland Power, probably, you know, in haste of trying to get this project up and running, they then went and put some, you know, markers down there as to where potentially poles and that could go if indeed this was approved by council. So no decision has been made, and I'm looking forward to the interim report there. But I think you're right in that maybe they were a little ahead of us in planning, with the assumption that maybe this was going to be approved as traditionally had been over the last number of years for any upgrades. But to Councillor Stoll's point, you know, I think the residents felt that this may have been a done deal and that they weren't adequately consulted. So again, I don't think there was any malice intended on anyone's part here. I think it was, you know, a misunderstanding of the concept of permit and maybe being a little bit further along in hopes that this would be approved. So that would be my commentary, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody
Your
else?
Worship, if I could, I guess everybody else has, so I suppose I should comment. Generally speaking, you know, I've received all of the emails that other council members have received, certainly, you know, spoke to some residents, and I understand some of the concerns that they have, whether it be the aesthetics of the situation, what it would look like, you know, or some other concerns that might arise. But I think what we're looking at here is a breakdown in communication. I don't know that there has been a good enough explanation provided to the residents as to why we would want to be doing this, why Newfoundland Power would want to be moving these poles. You know, not only is it from the standpoint of trying to improve access to these poles in terms of maintenance or you know, a breakdown and being able to conduct the proper repairs, but I do know that there's been concerns over the years with lighting in the area down on Smallwood Drive, in particular in the area of the Teen Guju complex, and the safety that goes with having the proper amount of lighting in that area where there's a lot of young children, especially in the summertime, that are going back and forth on that street. I think, those are the benefits. Those are some of the reasons why perhaps this is being entertained. I'm not sure that the residents are having the explanation given to them as to why this is being done. And I think some of those factors I just mentioned are some of the important things that should be told about.
Well, thank you, everybody, and I want to compliment the planning department. Basically, it wasn't meant to go through them, but I know the manager and the director, Catherine Howell and Jason Collins, have kind of been looking into this just to make sure that our development regulations don't apply. And generally, if there's new development, that's when our regulations kick in. Council, if you wish to have new regulations with regards to redevelopment or some significant change in the way the power distribution network, or it could be cable TV, it could be fiber optic, it could be any type of utility. I think we need to strike a council committee to look into that. But I think the department has done a great job. And I know Director Antle, during all this, the COVID pandemic struck, and there's been a lot of juggling to do. But from what the manager of engineering services was saying to us, to Newfoundland Power, they've basically been doing more or less the same thing that they've always done. So perhaps we're at a turning point in the infrastructure needs and challenges of our city. And when you talk about asset management, Director Antle, it's not just our assets, it's the assets in the city. And I do believe that Newfoundland Power, I think, is taking on new approaches, perhaps new approaches to make sure that service is reliable. The services can be maintained safely by their crews. And of course, much like in our circles, I guess they're looking at the cheapest possible way of doing it. I believe that all has to get approved by the PUB at the end of the day. Anyway, they're just some of the factors we're going to have to deal with. So we'll look at the interim report later on tonight, and we'll report back to public, I think, within 2 weeks. Shall we move on?
One other item there, Your Worship. Can we just want to speak to item number 88 there, the private sewer repairs? The minute there says the suspension of private sewer repairs, and just want to ensure that no one is left with the understanding or the interpretation here that private sewer repairs have been suspended. They still are ongoing. We did put in a procedure in place. So if anybody, needs, their sewers looked at or unplugged or what have you, that service is still being offered. It's just that under the COVID circumstance, we brought in a SOP, or a safe operating procedure, whereby it would be contracted out. And in this particular case, I think it's Afonso that would do that. So I just wanted to ensure the residents, if they happen to be reading this, not to misinterpret it, that if they're in need of private sewer repairs, the city will still provide that service if they reach out to the city. So I just wanted to clarify that, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And further to your point about the standard operating procedure, yes, it has to be developed. But the other side of it too is to ensure that those that we need the most to fix our water repairs in the water mains and leaks and the type, that would be our UTM crew. And if they were to get sick as a result of some unsafe work procedure or work environment, in this case, private sewer repairs, for example, can get done by the private sector. But there's no way we could use anybody but our UTM crew to fix a water main that breaks, say, on Ruth Avenue or Old Placentia Road. It's very important to manage risk, and I think that's been communicated very well, starting back on March 23rd and culminating, I think, on May 4th. The council was notified that the service would be restored, to your point, but we would be using the private sector. And I believe, Director Antle, we're working on an SOP, a safe operating procedure, to bring that back to what we would consider traditional service. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship. We are working on that, and once we have it drafted and ready, we'll be bringing it to IPW committee and then further to council.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Director Antle, and anybody else before we move on. Folks, I have a copy of the agenda. The proclamation is on my iPad. Has anybody got it on a different device? Because if I go to read it, I have to minimize my my Zoom session. So just chalk this up to my own technical clumsiness. Does anybody have it, and would they read it if they have it on another device? Any volunteers? All right, no worries. I tell you what I'll do, folks. I'll get a copy of it and we'll read it at the end of the meeting. How's that sound? That work? Okay. All right, next item.
Your worship, I've got it here if you'd like for me to read it out.
Oh, please do. Yeah, thanks, Councillor Power.
No problem. So as you had indicated, your worship, we have a proclamation for the for MS Awareness Month, which of course is May of every year. So the proclamation states, whereas multiple sclerosis is a chronic, unpredictable, often disabling neurological disease affecting an estimated 77,000 Canadians, one of the highest rates in the world, including approximately 1,000 people living in Newfoundland, Labrador. And whereas multiple sclerosis is the most common neurological disease affecting young adults in Canada, usually diagnosed between the ages of 20 and 49. And whereas women are more than 3 times as likely to develop MS as men, and whereas multiple sclerosis symptoms are vary widely and may lead to problems with numbness, coordination, vision, and speech, as well as extreme fatigue and even paralysis. And whereas there is no known cause of or cure for multiple sclerosis, and whereas the Multiple Sclerosis of Canada, founded in 1948, is the only national voluntary organization in Canada that supports both MS research and programs and services for people living with MS and their families. And whereas the Multiple Sclerosis Society of Canada provides approximately $11 million for MS research each year in the fight to end MS, and Canadian MS research continues to provide hope through the development of better treatments, diagnostic tools, advancing the search for the cause of MS, and discovering innovations to improve the quality of life for people living with MS. And whereas the dedication and commitment for the supporters and volunteers here today could only make this possible. Now, therefore, you, Mayor Dave Aker, do hereby proclaim this month of May to be MS Awareness Month for the Multiple Sclerosis Society of Canada Atlantic Division. And I guess I'd just like to end that by further saying that all members, I believe, who are present this evening are sporting some form of red in support of the MS Awareness Month, which of course, as we know, is May. And I would just like to give, I guess, recognition to Zita Kavanaugh for all of the work that she does here within our community and the volunteer organization that she supports as well, not only the MS Society of Canada, but also the Smiling Warriors. Thank you.
Well done. I think I'm going to delegate reading the proclamations every time. Geez, Deputy Mayor, I think you did one 2 weeks ago, and Councillor Power tonight. It's nice to sit back and listen. Anybody got any comments? It's great that you recognize both the Smiling Warriors as well as the MS Society of Canada. I suspect Councillor Fry would like to join the conversation.
I would actually. I think Councillor Anto would like to say something as well. Zita Kavanaugh does tremendous work for the MS awareness here within our city of Mount Pearl. And I know that all of us have been to numerous events that they hold. They have a great support network, and all of the members are such incredible people. And when you see an organization that is so active and so close-knit and so supportive of each other, you know, it's really, really nice to see. And Zita does tremendous work. She's a very vocal advocate, shall we say, and she has a wonderful organization, the Smiling Warriors. So just a shout out to Zita and to all of our friends who live with MS.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. Councillor Antle.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fry and Councillor Power. Yes, we all know Zita Kavanaugh Taylor. If I don't say Kavanaugh Taylor, Dave might get upset. So, yeah, we've now been working with Smiling Warriors over the past few years. It's a great group. I mean, once we get involved with the MS Society, they have such a great group. They all support each other. I think there's more of a friendship. I mean, they all work together and they talk together. We go to so many functions with the MS Society. You know, the MS Pause. right? I know we all go with that with their pets, and Critters and Things are a good corporate sponsor of MS. And one of the things I find with the MS Society, we get together them at Christmas time, at Easter, and they get together, we all become friends. So without the MS and Zeta and the Smiling Warriors, they certainly are a strong chapter. And it's great to see that they support each other. And that's everything for me.
Thank you so much. Anybody else? Okay, let's move to the next part of our agenda, the committee reports, starting with the Community Development Committee. Deputy Mayor Locke, I think, is coming to the microphone. All yours,
Yes,
sir.
I'll take the first one, Your Worship, and then Councillor Fry will finish up our report. The first one for me today are some event cancellations, very common now due to the COVID-19. So our staff have recommended that we cancel the annual Canada Day and City Day celebrations that were scheduled for July of 2020. Of course, this decision is as a result of public health orders that prevent large gatherings at any indoor or outdoor locations. And the city will continue and continues to make decisions based on the direction of our public health officials to ensure that the health and welfare of our residents and employees are kept at the fore. So while we're canceling these activities, I would suggest that the formal or the regular normal celebrations that our residents have come to know and to love over the years, we still will be investigating to see if there may be some other opportunities or options whereby we'll still acknowledge and recognize and celebrate, but it might have to be like so many things in the new format under COVID. So I just wanted to bring that forth as information for our residents there. I think Councillor Antle has a question.
Just a quick question. I certainly, with COVID, we have lots of cancellations. And just one of the meetings I was at last week, there was a concern with the food banks. And they told me that throughout the summer months, their food banks are always looking for food, and City Days and Canada Day is a major source of food for them. Are we looking at anything in the future to help out here with the food banks in some way? Or can the committee look at something that we can do there moving forward?
That hasn't come up in our conversations just yet, Councillor Antle, but certainly we can take it back to committee. And I know the initiative that you've been the lead on here with respect to the the cash drive that they started. So certainly we can bring it back to committee and look out, perhaps reach out to our food banks to see if there's something that we can do to help them in those. Because you're right, during City Days and Canada Day, City Days in particular, they get a lot of food from the participants of all the city events. So duly noted, great point to be brought up, and we'll certainly bring it back to our committee. Thank you.
Okay, let's carry on. Councillor Fry, please.
Okay, next on our agenda are the development permits. Now, from the period of May 4th to May 15th, we have 26 building construction permits for residential. And that work is totaling $348,600. And as you can see in your kit, it's anywhere from fences to decks to one house being built, a few sheds, and a whole bunch of other things. So I will move this to be accepted.
I'll second it.
Councillor Fry has moved this would be the development permits for residential for the period May 1st to the 15th, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All in favor? Those opposed? Carried.
We have 2 building construction permits for commercial totaling $130,000, and I so move.
Again, moved by Councillor Fry, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Council, all in favor? Contraminded? Carried. Thank you.
And for the information, for your information, we also have 1 occupancy permit, and that is on Glencoe Drive for DF Barnes Fabrication, which is the Task Force NL. So in total, the committee recommends that the building permits issued for the period of May 4th to 15th, showing a total construction value of $478,600 be approved. So that's quite interesting to see in the city in a 2-week period.
Yeah, it's nice to see Task Force NL finally set up and providing many of our health authorities with locally sourced and locally made protective equipment, which is much needed at this time. So again, moved by Councillor Fry and also and seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Occupancy permits, May 4th to the 15th. All in favor? Those opposed and carried. But I've got to turn you back to the development permit list for development permit number DP 20-0099.
Yes. There is one development permit list, and that's for Island Heady. It's a home-based business on Donovan Street. So I will move this one as well.
Thank you. In addition, again, moved by the Deputy Mayor, or sorry, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All in favor? Contraminded and carried. Thank you, Councillor. Infrastructure and Public Works. Councillor Stoyles. No, Councillor Ledwell. Go ahead, sir.
I'll start this evening, Your Worship, with the first item on our report, and the last two will be handled by my esteemed colleague, Councillor Stoyles. Just as an update, I guess, for Council on the Kenmount Park, the Kenmount Hill development, I'm sorry. Of course, as we all know, that is a large piece of work. It's a piece of work that's being done in a number of phases, a number of different projects. And we're going to talk tonight about some of the water and sewer infrastructure that needs to be installed. Specifically, this is a phase 5 of a project up there that we're doing with assessment of storm outfall and upgrades. We've got a change order to bring forward this evening. That particular assessment that I referenced, the storm outfall and upgrades, is a little bit of a bigger piece of work than we had originally anticipated. And therefore, there's a need for some additional project management fees to make sure that the process goes as it should and the work gets done as it's supposed to be done. The additional fees are going to cover preparation of the design RFP for the additional work, some oversight on the design, and ultimately the coordination of construction, that package for the tendering amount of $17,514.54. That includes HST. That's the value of the change order we're bringing forward this evening. We've looked at it as a committee and certainly see that this is probably work that needs to be done. It's important that we apply the correct amount of management to this project, and oversight is important as well. So I'm prepared to recommend that we move forward with approving this change order this evening, and I so move.
Second.
It is moved by Councillor Ledwell and seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Council, any discussion? Hearing, Director Antle, would you like to make a comment?
I'd just like to add something there that was missing from the report and the notice there. That is for vigilant management, Your Worship. All the fees are noted there correctly by Councillor Ledwell and Councillor Stoyles, but vigilant management was omitted from the report. So that should be corrected to reflect it's for vigilant management.
Thank you, Director.
Yep, thank you. So noted. I'll call the question after the phone call. All in favor? And contraminded, carried. Thank you.
I'll turn it over to Councillor Stoyles.
Thank you. Of course, this items first is the Public Works update, and want to say great work to the senior manager and the staff and superintendents at Public Works, who is working very hard under the stress of the COVID, under the protocol, and making sure all the necessary protocols are in place. We have a number of items just for information that is still going on here within our city. The sidewalk sweeper is ongoing and ongoing. That I think it started operation on May 11th and getting through all the streets. Water sampling testing is ongoing. Our catch basins and manhole repairs is underway. Lawn repairs, which an awful lot of people are very happy because there was a lot of damage. We had so much snow this winter that a lot of people are very happy that we've already started work with our lawn repairs and getting that done. Of course, litter pickup is on the way, and again, residents are, we can see our people out in our walkways and our open spaces picking up litter. And of course, equipment maintenance is an ongoing thing, and it's ongoing winter and summer. We have to get ready actually for next winter. So that is certainly ongoing. My computer just shut off, so you're going to have to hang on a second. Timed out. I'm back again. The Capital Works update is St. David's Avenue, of course, the tender will close on June 1st. 2020 traffic signal and the tender for that Dunn's Road intersection is going to close May 26th. The asphalt and concrete that already closed on May 12th, and I guess the work is being prepared now for the next council meeting. The street marking 2020 was already awarded on May 12th. The Topsail Road asphalt, the RFP closed on May 15th. That was just a couple of days ago, and that'll be coming to our next committee. Staff at engineering standing offer, again, that is going to close on May 27th. And quality assurance video, there was awarded on May 8th, and quality assurance maintenance tested award is under review. And that is it for us, Your Worship.
Well said. Thank you, Councillor. Folks, any questions? Councillor Fry, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to make one comment because I've had a couple of people notice the litter pickup, and they're very grateful for it. And there was one resident in particular, and she asked me yesterday. She said when she walks the trails, she'd love to be able to pick up some garbage, and is she permitted to do so? And I responded that I would think that Director Antle, perhaps you can help me with this, as long as they wear gloves and are careful in terms of what they're picking up. Is that okay to do?
I think it's acceptable for them to pick it up as long as they're careful what they're picking up.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's things that could be sharp or whatever. But if people want to pick it up and bring it to the closest receptacle that's there, be cautious, use the precautions that we know about. If you're not sure what it is, don't pick it up.
And would we supply bags for such
I think if people wanted to do that, it's something that they should call our public works department. Call us. We'll see what we can do, if we can organize or help or assist. Because this year, I know there's community groups that are not organized for river cleanups and whatnot. If there's going to be smaller groups, I think we want to be careful about how many we actually condone and might work together. But right now, I'd suggest they call us. If there's individuals that might want to get some supplies, I think we can figure that out.
Isn't it wonderful that residents take such pride that they want to do such a thing? I think it's great.
Indeed.
Your Worship, if I could just make a comment there. I have seen some people picking up some garbage, and at committee, we did discuss, one resident suggested that maybe we could organize, a 20-minute makeover within your bubble, so that if my family wanted to go out, my double bubble, and pick up some garbage around our neighborhood. So we're looking at that. We did raise it, and our staff on our committee is looking at it to see how it can be done safely. So to Councillor Fry's point, if that's deemed that's possible, then perhaps we could provide the gloves and the red garbage bags that we traditionally provide during the 20-minute makeover. But I agree, it's wonderful to see the residents chiming in and taking ownership of their city and doing their part. But certainly the precautions as outlined by Director Antle are warranted, that just be cautious and careful what you're picking up. Thank you, Your Worship. I think Councillor Antle wants to have a comment.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Antle.
Yes, Your Worship. As part of the Northeast Avalon Joint Council meeting I had there a couple of weeks ago with Eastern Health, that's one of the conversations that came up about residents now want to clean up their own cities and towns. And one of the conversations came up, the town of Torbay are coming up with their bubble buddies. So picking up large, instead of because we all have trouble with bulk garbage right now, so they're suggesting that bulk buddies or bubble buddies to pick up large items and move it towards the road so our town people can pick it up and this kind of stuff. But it seems like every town and every city now, the residents are pitching in. I mean, people are wanting to help. As long as they're going to do it safe, operating procedures that we put in place, it's a good thing. Thank you.
All right, shall we move on? I don't see any other hands. All right, the Corporate Services and Economic Development Committee report, Councillor Power.
Thank you, Your Worship. So as always, we'll start with item number 1 on our committee report, which is invoices for approval. So as you can see there, we have all of our invoices itemized down to number 13 for a total amount of $880,361.42. Just wanted to draw attention, I guess, to number 2, and this is for City of St. John's. These are our invoices for St. John's Regional Fire Department, as well as our water bill. So you might see there that we had a couple of deficits for the St. John's Fire Department, and that had to do with some overtime, overages and whatnot that were part of our contribution, I guess, to our regional services that we pay for with respect to the fire department, and of course the vital services that they provide to our city as well as to St. John's and neighboring communities. The water surplus is the one that I really wanted to highlight as well. And you can see that we have a credit there back from the City of St. John's, and that is to the tune of $411,515.81, which I just want to make mention is largely due to the hard work of our UTM staff and led by Director Antle, of course. We have, over the last number of years, and by we, I mean the Department of Infrastructure and Public Works, and specifically the UTM team, have put in a very rigid leak detection program. And it has, year after year, shown to be very successful in detecting leaks so that we can fix the leaks and therefore lose less water, which equates to dollars to the city of Mount Pearl. So as you can see, this past year, in 2019, we paid the City of St. John's a little bit too much money, and they are now crediting us back with almost $500,000. So kudos to the UTM team and Director Antle. Glenn Dollamont and Daryl Drover presented actually recently at a virtual conference, and they did a very good job. The presentation was sent out to all of us, and I just thought it was excellent. It was very easy to understand, and you can certainly see how hard work in this department paid off, you know. And of course, when we save money in different departments, we're able to help our residents and our business owners also save money. So again, just wanted to make mention of that and explain as to why that rebate, I guess, of sorts is there. And I so move that we accept all these invoices as presented.
It is moved by Councillor Power, seconded by Councillor Antle.
Mayor, if I could. Yeah.
Please.
Further to what Councillor Power was saying there, when I first got on council, probably 11 or 12 years ago, when I saw the water consumption in the city of Mount Pearl for our size, I mean, it was concerning. And I even questioned the amount. I thought one of the decimals had been misplaced in the report when I saw how many liters of water that a population of 25,000 people was using. And I think at the time we were double the national average in Canada. And Canada, I think, is 3 times the global average. So when I looked at what Mount Pearl was using, I said, my Lord, what is happening here? And as Councillor Power correctly pointed out, it was our crew that came, and I can still remember Director Antle bringing the request forward to the IPW committee to buy, I think it was called the correlator, Director Antle. And if memory serves me correctly, it was a cost of $45,000. Now, members around the council table didn't know, but it was fit to eat. But Councillor Antle, Director Antle and the staff at UTM, stressed the importance of this and how it could actually save us. And I think they have a very high batting average when it comes to identifying and detecting the leak when they dig up. Like, they're almost spot on as to where the water is leaking. Because again, stuff I've learned since I'm on council is that, all your pipes are underground. As the ground freezes and thaws, your pipes are moving. So there's going to be cracks and weeps and leaks. But this correlator helped us identify that. So while we got $411,000 savings this year, Director Antle gave us some results here. Just to put it in context for our residents, in 2014, we paid $4.8 million in water costs. In 2018, we paid $2.6 million in water costs. So that $45,000 correlator saved us $2.2 million over a 4-year period. But it wasn't just the technology. It was the commitment and dedication and the passion of our workers to try to right this wrong, and they absolutely nailed it. So I was so delighted to see this, and I share with Councillor Power, and I want to send huge kudos to all the crew that made this happen. So thank you to Director Entel and all the folks at UTM that are now saving us money, but also preserving our water in the process. Thank you, Your Worship.
Well said. Thank you very much, and congratulations to everybody involved, because yeah, we have a passion for spending money on the right things, and we like to save money when it's being wasted. And I recall, Deputy Mayor, about 6 years ago, I think we went through a very difficult budget, and I believe there was an extra $1 million in the budget because our water consumption had gone so high, probably the highest per capita in the region. But thanks to Director Antle and all of the directors on the management team working together with our staff, we've looked into that problem, and I think we're leaders within the region when it comes to basically water conservation.
I think you're right, Your Worship. If memory serves me correctly, in the media, Mount Pearl was sort of maybe termed as water hogs, and we weren't doing our part. Now I would suggest that we have to be one of the lowest in the province, if not in Eastern Canada. So again, good news story all around. Thank you.
All right, I'll call the question for the invoices for approval. All in favor? And those opposed? And it is carried. Thank you.
I've never been so happy with myself as to ask for clarification on a surplus. Because I certainly learned a lot by the responses that I got from Director Pittman and Director Antle. And I certainly appreciate all that clarification. Item number 2 for us is our payment register. So for the information of council, the following payment register, which is attached from May 4th to the 15th, totaled $625,993. And of course, if we have any questions with respect to that, we can certainly pose them to Director Pittman for any clarification. Good. Moving along then, my last item, and then I'll pass it over to Councillor Antle to finish up our report. Item number 3 is our purchase card statement for February 6th to May the 5th. So you can have a look at the purchase card statement below. All of the items that are within policy can be purchased on our Visa cards, credit cards, and then submitted for reimbursement by various staff members who are all pre-approved to be owners of these purchase cards. So again, if we have any specific questions, we can certainly pose them to Director Pittman in Corporate Services.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Antle, I think, is next.
Your Worship, I have 2 to discuss, and the first one is our facade improvement grant application. Facade improvement program a couple of years ago, and we're quite proud of this promotion. We started off with our Consider It Done promotion, or our campaign, and this facade improvement helps our business community. You know, our business community certainly supports Mount Pearl, and we have to support our business community. And this facade improvement program, you know, we talked about this at committee, and we have budgeted for this year. And our facade improvement program this year was for O'Keefe Agencies. They've been in business in Mount Pearl over 30 years. And they did an application, they met all the criteria, and it was 50% of the total project, and up to a maximum of $10,000. And our committee looked at this, and each application is scored below, along with the total cost of the project. You know, it was O'Keefe Agencies, and like I said, they're in business over Mount Pearl over 30 years. And their application was for a total project cost of $6,020, and we approved an amount of $3,010.43. And I so move. All good?
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Did you hear anything I said? I was the only one. Okay, motion has been called and seconded, and I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded, carried. Thank you.
Good. And next one for a network service RFP. And this has to do with an existing RFP or our existing VoIP program. The committee was advised the city has recently issued a request for proposal for city facilities-wide area data network services to provide Ethernet services to connect its three major facilities, being City Hall, the Neil Windsor Building, and the Glacier Summit Center. This service provides data network and VoIP connectivity for city services such as the server, PC, and telephone communications. The city received a total of 3 bids. The committee recommends awarding the 5-year term contract based on analysis of the proposals and signing a scoring to Bell Alliance at a cost of $106,605, HST included. And this is less than we had the previous 5 years. And I so move.
It is moved by Councillor Power, Councillor Antle, and seconded by Councillor Power. Any questions about this award? 5 years with Bell. All right, I'll call the question. All in favor? Councillor Minded, carried. Thank you. And that brings to a close, folks, our agenda. We're on new business. I believe Councillor Fry, you'll be first today, and the microphone is all yours.
Thank you. A couple of things for me. This past May 7th, I attended the meeting for the Municipal Mental Health Task Force, and that's a great committee that I'm really proud to be part of. There are a lot of things coming in the works, and it's a fairly new committee that's all of municipal representatives, and the focus is on mental health. So I'll be bringing some more forward. I just wanted to make you guys aware that, that it is in the works and it is being very productive. Also on May 13th, the Find Your City virtual open house that Director Pittman had organized with Mills and Wright. I thought it was so well done. I was impressed with the number of people that were participating. It was very professional. I mean, under the circumstances, we can't have a town hall meeting where we can get together because of COVID. That was almost better in a way, because participants could right there in their living room vote on their preference. And I thought it was an incredible engagement piece. And I bring that forward because it's important for the topic of Find Your City Center to find out what our residents want. But also, I would really like to use this go forward for a lot of community engagement and get resident feedback, because it's such a quick and easy way. Like I say, you just sit there in your living room in front of your computer and click your preferences, and then just like that, it's all tabulated. I mean, it was such a great tool, and I cannot say how impressed I was with that. So thank you to Mills and Wright and to Director Pittman, because that was tremendous. And I really do hope that we do more projects like that, where we engage the public in that, on that platform, because it certainly was impressive. I also want to mention the Mount Pro Cadets Club are hosting, they're holding a Hearts for Hope promotion. And that's a really neat promotion because, as you know, the Mount Pro Cadets mandate is to serve the community's greatest need. And there are a lot of need during these difficult times. But because of the restrictions in place, you're not able to go out and fundraise and that sort of thing. So what they're doing, it's a group of 15 women that are holding a virtual fundraiser. And the fundraiser, somebody donate and they buy a heart, and all of the funds stay local. So if you're shopping at Sobeys, or if you're down around the Piper's Plaza and you see these hearts displayed in windows, those are hearts that people have purchased. And like I say, the money stays local in Mount Pearl. It goes to food banks, seniors, people in need. So it's a great promotion that 15 women have come together to help the community. So that's kudos to them. Also, I want to say congratulations to the 2019-2020 award winners and all the members of the Mount Pearl Paradise Skating Club on another successful season. They had their virtual awards gala this past weekend, and I know it's hard times, but they make the best of it. And a big thank you to all the volunteers who make this possible. And also, I just wanted to say thank you to the residents. I know this was May 24th weekend, And I looked out and people were still following the proper protocols and guidelines. And you know, sometimes we forget that we owe a lot of gratitude to our residents for helping us to keep this curve. And that's it for me.
Thank you much. Councillor Power.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a couple of things. I wanted to start by recognizing the Canadian Forces Snowbirds tragedy on the weekend, and how devastating it is to the friends and family, and of course the fellow Snowbirds of Jennifer Casey, Captain Jennifer Casey, who was lost in that downed fighter jet. And also just to, you know, mention that again, it's, you know, the Halifax and Nova Scotia area that has once again been hit so very hard. And I know that they're hurting so much, and I just wanted to express, I guess, our sympathies and extend, you know, love from across the way. Captain Richard McDougall was also in that accident and survived, but is obviously, you know, going through some serious recovery and probably a long road ahead. So condolences to, you know, thoughts and prayers go out to his family and friends, and of course, all of the Snowbird family. I know that they must be having such a difficult time at a time when their message is, and their purpose was, you know, to uplift the spirits of, you know, the rest of Canada by their wonderful displays, and to see that this tragedy is just, it's heartbreaking. So I know that we're all there with them. This past weekend was also the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia. And I love attending any events that spread hope and love, and honestly being part of, I guess, a global community that, you know, supports a day against hate is always something that I'm going to support 100%. We are all human beings, and we all deserve love and respect, and we deserve to love whomever we choose and be free from discrimination of that. So I just wanted to recognize that, and to speak to everybody out there who does feel that they are treated unfairly or disrespected because of who they choose to spend their lives with and who they choose to love. You have more support than you know. I also wanted to make mention of May 15th was International Peace Officer Memorial Day. And I did, I put a post out there just to recognize our MEOs and the good work that they do in our community. And, you know, peace officers around the world, we often, they're very quiet oftentimes in their role in and around the city, and they do a lot of great work for us. But they are there when we need them the most. And I think right now they are quietly going about their business and making sure that our city remains safe and our residents and our business owners are safe. And it's not a job that you necessarily see the rewards of it every single day, but we know that, you know, all we have to do is pick up the phone and they will be there to support us. So I just wanted to recognize them and all those who have, you know, paid the ultimate sacrifice in their role as a peace officer. I echo your sentiments, Councillor Fry, with respect to the community engagement. And I too very much enjoyed the online virtual engagement with respect to Find Your Center. I was so impressed by all of the online participation. And I think that as time goes on, if this becomes part of our new normal, at least for a little while, it's hopeful that people will participate in this forum. And I guess the more we can do to reach out to people in whatever format is required these days, for sure, we should continue to do that. So yes, hats off to Ms. Pittman and her team in the Economic Development Department. I think that it was very well run, and it went really, really good. So we look forward to getting the analysis piece of that for sure. Last thing for me was a little bit of fun on a May 24th weekend. I decided to log into our trivia night that Mount Pearl had on Saturday night, and it was pretty well attended. There was, I'm going to say there was a dozen teams or so. I was a little bit late logging in, so I didn't get to participate with a team, but I was enjoying all of the questions, and there was some pretty serious competitors on there, because there was a lot of, back and forth in between. You could have a little chat with each other and whatnot. So people were engaged and they were having fun. And I hope it's something that we consider doing again, because again, even though we have to be distant from each other, we certainly don't have to feel alone. And I think doing things like this, even if it's virtually, it kind of helps keep our community close. And we can be the facilitators of that. So hats off to Director Collins and Rosie Stead for organizing that and for taking it on. It was excellent. And also in the same vein, I did get my Summit Center newsletter, and I enjoyed it very much. There was a lot of good tips there. I'm going to start doing some chair yoga, I think. So I certainly appreciated that. And that's it for me. Thank you, Your Worship.
Hey, thank you very much. Councillor Antle, please.
Your Worship, just a couple of things for me. I won't keep you too long. May the 6th, I had another meeting with Northeast Ireland Joint Councils and Eastern Health, and Councillor Fry joined me. It was a good meeting. At this meeting, Eastern Health gives a quick synopsis of what's happening within their Eastern Health. And there was about a dozen communities involved in the conversation, and it really just keeps us up to date with what's happening with their towns and cities and what we're doing. Mount Pearl is doing the right things, right? So, we talked about St. John's also. And, we have another meeting with them. I think it was supposed to be tomorrow, but it just got postponed a few minutes ago. All right. I think you all saw the minutes. Mount Pearl, certainly we can hold our head up high. I mean, everything we're doing we're doing it right. I know I did ask about the dog parks and the skate parks, and it's the same thing. Nobody's doing nothing with that until, I guess, the next alert level. Councillor Fry and Councillor Power both said, the virtual party or virtual meeting we had last week with Find Your Center, it was fabulous. I go for parking lot coffees now. And when I met at my parking lot bunch, they all talked about the Find Your Center. I mean, most people did pay attention to it. It's a good way to do a meeting. I mean, it seems like now, Zoom is the way to be. I think we can really sit down and pay attention, and we got a lot of good information. On May the 14th, I met with the ministerial group again. We meet with the ministerial group maybe every 2 weeks. And we talk about the food banks, and food banks are in good shape here in Mount Pearl, I'm glad to report. We have another donation going on June the 1st. So, we're doing the right things, right? The food banks are in good shape. We still need more and more help within the community, but we're ahead of the curve. From our meeting we had with Seamus O'Regan, our MP Seamus O'Regan, there a couple of weeks ago in council, Seamus put us in line with some community grants, and all the churches now within Mount Pearl are applying for some community grants for community gardens. So that's good. I'll hear more about that within the next couple of weeks. And I'm sure we'll be talking to Director Collins to find out if there's any community gardens left for our community churches. And that's everything for me, nice and quick.
Oops. Thank you very much, Councillor Stoyles.
Thank you. I have a couple of items. I too want to say great job to the virtual meeting. Was certainly very informative and very interesting. It's great to see how easy it is to do a virtual meeting, and maybe our public forums and open houses will be going that way in the future. And I guess the biggest problem with it is a lot of people who are seniors and things like, and people like that who probably have never ever used a computer and don't have access to internet is probably the biggest problem with that. And I know we have a large amount of seniors, especially in Masonic Park, and that I know there is a lot of them that do use computers and is very computer savvy, but there certainly is a number that's not. But just wanted to say it certainly was very informative and a very good job. Hats off to staff. Also wanted to say a big thank you to the union, and I meant to mention this at last meeting actually, but our local QP union give a $1,000 donation to the food bank, and I wanted to say thank you to them for that, for stepping up and seeing a need that was out there in the community. And as Councillor Antle said, the food banks are doing okay. They're not rich by no means, but they are surviving. And with the government funding that has come down, it certainly has, federal government funding certainly has helped an awful lot with that. Also, Your Worship, I want to pass along my sympathies to the Pitcher family. Of course, Chad was tragically killed in an accident last week, and again I want to say hats off to the union for stepping up again and starting a GoFundMe page and helping out with the family, and of course also to the city for providing some services to the family and to the staff under our healthy insurance policy. And it's great to see the city stepping up and offering support for people in need, especially during such a tragedy. And I also want to pass along my sympathies to the Cameron family. Elizabeth Cameron passed away. Mrs. Cameron was 95, but it certainly lived a good life. Bob and Marilyn Cameron live in our community, and just wanted to pass along my sympathies to the Cameron family. And that's it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Locke.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be brief because all the items that I was going to speak to certainly have been touched upon. But I do want to send condolences to the Pitcher family. Like I said, it was a severe tragedy and a huge blow. I know to our staff here at the City of Mount Pearl. Chad was very well respected, a great worker, and had a great presence about him. So again, our love and prayers are going out to the Pitcher family in that regard. Also, Councillor Power mentioned the Snowbirds and Captain Casey and our friends again in Nova Scotia across the Gulf there. Again, just sending our thoughts and prayers that way as well with those folk. To end on a positive note, I'm delighted with the cleanup. We go for daily walks every day, and it's just so nice to look in our woods and our trailways and to see how they're supposed to be. And I passed 2 workers today, and they were diligent with their little pickers, and it was nice to see that they were physically distanced, that they had their protective gear on, and they were doing a great job. They were picking up quite a bit of garbage, so it was nice to see that as well. And also with respect to the Find Your City Centre, I just want to echo that as well. It was a great venue. I think we had probably 45 people in attendance, which is a considerable good turnout. With respect to public inputs. And I sent out some notices afterwards. I haven't been this excited in a very long time over some of the initiatives in the city. And this is something that I've been working on for a number of years now. And with all the input from our residents and our qualified staff, we can make this happen. So to revitalize and develop a city centre, I think will only enhance the Waterford River and enhance our city centre, and certainly enhance the quality of life. So it's good to see all the people out there, and just a little reminder to residents that they can still contribute. They can still give input and contribute to the process, because again, it's their city center that we're trying to develop here. And also, despite the fact that we had snow in May, the upside is my nan always said snow was good for the complexion. So melt down your May snow, wash your face in it, and it will enhance your beauty. And also, according to Director Rental, maybe it helps cure styes on your eyes. So snow in May is not necessarily a bad thing. There's always a silver lining. Thank you, Your Worship.
Oh, you're welcome. And I guess this weather is not very good for the memory, because I forgot completely about Councillor Ledwell. Sorry, Andrew. I'm gonna give the floor to you and take whatever time you need, sir. Apologies.
Your Worship, I'm sure you don't want to forget me. I'm sure you don't, but I do appreciate the time. I won't take too long. Just wanted to touch on a couple of the other issues that some of the other folks, my colleagues, have touched on. I, of course, want to offer my condolences to the Pitcher family. That is a real blow with the passing of Chad. He's a young man, pretty close to my own age, with small children and a wife, obviously. And it's scary to think that in a blink of an eye, those kinds of things can happen. And, you know, I can't imagine what the family is feeling. I can't imagine what the members of our staff, our union, our public works crews that have worked so closely with Chad over the years, what they're feeling. I certainly want to pass on my condolences to everybody. He was well liked by all accounts, and I know he'll be sorely missed. As to what the Deputy Mayor was just talking about, the cleanup, I too wanted to commend and congratulate our staff, both from the infrastructure and public works side of things, also though from the community services crowd, because they've had a number of folks, a number of staff members over helping with the cleanup. And I want to say kudos to all involved, because for some reason, I know we always do a good job with it, but this year it feels like we're right on top of it, perhaps even more than we usually are. We've got the street sweepers out there. I've seen them several times. You drive around the city when we do get a chance to go out and about, and you see, our staff on the roads are visible, and they're doing a great job of cleaning up. So it makes me proud to see our staff so engaged and to be so much on top of things with our spring cleanup. So congratulations, Director Antle, Director Collins, and all of our staff for the great work that you're doing there. Thank you. That's all for me, and I'll pass it back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. I guess I got through everybody. I'll end on with my comments, and they're going to be about Chad Pitcher, and it was a tragic loss on that day. I think poor Chad was in the wrong place at the wrong time in a very tragic accident. Leaving to mourn his wife, Holly, of 13 years and 3 fairly small children. Very sad for the family, and also very sad for those employees that many of you just talked about. I want to reach out to our directors and our acting CAO and say, I think you did a fabulous job reacting to it. Thank you very much, all of you, for the support that you provided, especially from the human resources side of things and the EFAP program, to provide counseling and support to the workers that day. It was a very tragic event for their family, but it's also been a high degree of mourning for his extended family here in the city of Mount Pearl. I know, Director Antle, you were off that day, but you came in, and I know you and Ken Turner and others provided great leadership that day in helping our employees understand what missing Chad is really going to mean to us. He was an important part of our team. Only hired back in January, was expected to return this fall, if not the summer, for work on the parks program and the like. He'll be sadly missed. Director, you knew him more than anybody, I think, in this room. Did you want to make a couple comments?
Chad's one of those good guys. He's easy to talk to, quiet guy, but good work. My condolences sincerely to his family and his friends. Thank you.
Thank you much. And I'd also like to mention the role that CUPE 2099 has played in supporting the family, as well as providing some of the funds that his family is going to need for the arrangements and the like. To Ken Turner and all the CUPE 2099 executive and his colleagues in the union and outside the union. We mourn together, and we mourn as a community his loss. And on that note, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn, moved by the deputy mayor, seconded by Council Antle, and we are adjourned. And we'll return in, how about 10 minutes for the committee of the whole?